Now the most important thing in my book is chapter 2. If you can get chapter 2 to work for you, you don't really need to read the next rest of the book, except that you'll miss a few laughs if you didn't. But when things really moved me was when I discovered that when you know that you are loved, and by that I mean you know it in the cells of your body, your DNA knows that you are loved, when you can get the message through to all levels of your being, life works and miracles start to happen. Now in the mind-body-spirit world, those of you who know about it, there's lots of books on telling you to love yourself, telling you to love other people. But there's very little that actually tells you that you need to feel loved yourself. This book fills that gap, definitely. And that when you can actually feel loved, your life works. Now, let me read to you what happened to me when I managed to get this through into my DNA. Many years ago, I thought that the world hated me. It was uncanny how badly complete strangers treated me. Then, as I taught myself to feel loved, my world changed beyond recognition. With practice, I discovered that when I felt loved, life worked. My needs were met. When things were not going so well, it was always because I had not felt loved for a while. I discovered that my world is a reflection of me. My energy field defines the world I experience. My emotions define my energy field. And how I think defines my emotions. The only thing I have control over is how I think. Thus I taught myself to imagine that I was loved by the universe. This changed my life. At the apex of this change in direction, many positive things connected to abundance were happening all at once. Bus drivers in London let me onto their buses without a ticket. Black cab drivers in London would either refuse to take any money, saying that they were going that way anyway, or they would look at the meter and say, just give me a £5, about half the fare. One London restaurant was feeding me for free, another just asked for half the bill. This second restaurant gave my friends a 10% discount, even when they turned up without me. I owed £2,000 to a shop in Oxford Circus, who told me to pay them when I could. They said they trusted me more than the Bank of England. When I took an American friend of mine into my bank to cash traveller's cheques, the bank refused to charge commission, as she was a friend of mine. Life was just a stream of people wanting to give me things for free, particularly when I needed them. Now, if you want to know how to get the feeling of being loved through your DNA, you need to read chapter 2, and you also then need to apply it when you're next stuck waiting for a bus. Now, there is another exercise I found that had absolutely miraculous results. It's maybe not new to some of you, because there are other books written on the blessing exercise, but perhaps not in the way I use it. But I find that when you bless other people, which means you can just say, I bless John, and you can imagine a ball of white light coming from your heart and surrounding John. It's quite easy to say I bless something, but when you start to bless people, literal miracles can happen. It happened in my, and I used to use it a lot, because when I was travelling around after a very serious operation I had, so I couldn't lift anything, I was constantly blessing the people that were going to lift my luggage onto conveyor belts and off conveyor belts at airports. And I must say it worked. But let me read to you rather a lovely story of something fairly miraculous down that line. A little while ago, a would-be client contacted me and told me he'd been cursed over money and asked if I could help. I agreed to see him. I usually find that people who think they have been cursed where money is concerned have actually been very stupid with their money. For example, if you give £20,000 in cash to a foreigner you met at the pub 3 weeks ago to invest in gold shares in Venezuela, and you'll never see the money, the shares, or the foreigner again, that is not being cursed where money is concerned. It is not even being unlucky with money. It is crass stupidity. Also, if you took out a bank loan for £20,000, it may well have turned into £40,000 after 14 years. After 15 years. Again, this is not bad luck where money is concerned. It's what happens when you take out a loan and fail to pay the interest required on time. In this case, the client, let's call him John, had parted with a large sum of money in £50 notes some 12 years earlier. Having taken out a bank loan, the debt had multiplied over the years, due to John being unable to pay its interest. John had more or less given the money to some bloke he'd met at the pub to buy him a house, and had never seen the money, the house, or the bloke again. John also told me he thought the man had cursed him, as no aspect of his life had worked since he lost the money, and he had been in a deep depression for years. His life looked bleak in all directions. I gave John a healing session, and as far as I could fathom, no one had cursed him other than himself. For 12 years he'd been blaming himself for being so stupid, and blaming the man who took the money for cheating him. I told John that his £50 notes were somewhere in use in the world. I suggested to John that he visualise his £50 notes and bless the people to whom they now belonged. I suggested John did this for 20 minutes twice a day. 3 weeks later, John came back to see me. He was a changed man. He was smiling and laughing again. He had lost all his feelings of sadness, anger, rage and guilt over his lost money. And to cap it all, his last girlfriend, whom he adored, had contacted him for the first time in over a year. His friends were telling him that he was a changed man. John told me that it was the blessing exercise which had changed him. As he blessed the people who now had his £50 notes, he had lost all his bad feelings connected to the original incident. I continued to see John and suggested some practical ways to sort out his financial problems. And as a result, he started to see how he could change his life for the better, and in time, pay off his debt to the bank.